Hello there. What is going on, everybody? Today I'm bringing to you the top 10 Untamed cards for KeyForge. This is an early top 10 list. This is basically my opinion, but it's going to be subject to change because as the game is out longer, again, all of these top 10 lists I'm doing are going to change probably as we learn decks and combos and synergies a little bit better over time. But so I just decided to do a top 10 list for I'm doing every faction. Today I'm doing Untamed. Before I dive into the top 10 cards, I also want to remind you guys about the Superstar Destroyer giveaway I have going on right now, which should be announced for the winner on about December 21st. So all you have to do to enter to win a Superstar Destroyer for Armada is become a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. And that's about it. So we're gonna break down these. These are kind of just cards in general. Like there are better cards for certain situations, and there were a lot of stuff that just didn't make the cut. So if your favorite card's not in here, you know, it might have been in it might have been number 11 or number 12 and just couldn't quite make the top 10. Again, this is very preliminary. This is based on the first week or two worth of games since the game has been out. And even though I have been playing for a couple of months, I've been playing with a very small selection of cards because the Gen Con decks didn't have everything, right? So so now that we have a lot more decks, we're able to see a lot more cards. So let's start things off with number 10. For Untamed, it's going to be KeyCharge. Such a good card, and it's changing a core mechanic of the game. It's, you know, normally you have to have a whole bunch of amber and you say, okay, check. And they have an opportunity to stop you from forging a key, but this can totally deny your opponent, especially if your opponent's playing a lot of shenanigans, maybe a heavy shadows deck with a lot of stealing. You're afraid they're going to bait and switch you or something like that. You know, you play this like, I'll pay one extra amber because you have to lose one, and it's totally worth it. So it's a great card to use to deny people that. It's also a great way to come from behind and win, especially when you have maybe only one key and you manage to get a lot of amber, and Untamed is good for that because Untamed has a lot of amber generating cards. This is a way for you to check with a lot of amber. Your opponent's like, oh, I have time, and then you forge a key at the beginning of your turn, play KeyCharge, forge your third key, and win before your opponent has an opportunity to even know what's coming. Very, very good card, and that's how it made the list. Number 9 is almost the same thing, but it's also a creature. It's Chota Hazri. It's basically Santa Claus, so it's also kind of thematically appropriate. I don't know if he's actually Santa Claus or not, although I think Santa Claus would be great in KeyForge. Yes, so it's literally the exact same text, but on top of that, it's a creature. And granted, at first glance, you might look at this creature and say, oh, gosh, you know, I just want to play a power 3 creature, and I don't have the amber, so now I have to lose one just to play him. Well, it'd be the same thing if you just played this. So if you just don't want to lose, if you're nowhere near, you know, being able to do that, maybe you just discard him early game, you know, and you know, filter him through and get him back later. You know, it's one of those things that you just have to make the right choice on. But it's better because if you also have the option to just get a creature out there, so he just does more than KeyCharge the action. So that's why he's just slightly above where KeyCharge is at number 9. Number 8 is going to be the Hunting Witch. Love this card. It synergizes well with Untamed because Untamed is one of those factions that can have a lot of creatures and just raw, unadulterated amber generation. It's kind of a weaker creature, but Hunting Witch comes out. You do play that as your first creature. Just every other creature you play, you know, you can get 5 amber in a turn this way. I have one deck that has 3 Hunting Witches. I imagine there's probably decks out there with 4 Hunting Witches. If you can get them all out, each one will give you more and more, and it can become completely insane. So there's lots of in this combos with just so many other things. It doesn't really require, you know, any kind of specific setup for this to be good. Even in a creature light deck, this is still a good card. It's still a really good first turn play. And if you're playing where, you know, if your opponent's not going to know what your deck list is, This also makes a really good first turn play because it forces them to deal with it because for all they know, you're running a creature heavy deck, and that they're going to try to maybe spend some kind of board clearing card earlier than they need to, but it's just a good card and it creates a lot of amber. So Hunting Witch. Next up, okay, I'm going to admit a little bit of my own bias. Push this guy a little higher. I mean, there's a good ability. Murmuk is actually a good card, but I'm Crabbok, and that's a giant crab. Naturally, I was going to like this card, right? I didn't care if it didn't have any ability at all. I was still going to like this card, and if I ever do find a deck with 4 Murmuks, I'm going to run that deck no matter how bad it is. But yes, I have one with 3, but I'm looking for that one with 4 Murmuks. But yes, I mean, it's actually a pretty decent card too. So it makes your opponent's keys cost 1 more. It's one of those things that you can play. Like, you know, there's not a whole lot of stealing and, you know, ways to shut down your opponent. Like Untamed's faction is a little more about, well, I'll just beat you because I'll generate more amber than you do. You know, so it's not really about stealing. It's more about outpacing your opponent. And this is one of the few cards that helps you deal with their ability to forge a key. And it does it in a pretty good way, because while it makes your opponent's keys cost more, they have to spend that more. So if they, you know, if you are able to, if your opponent turns around and has a power turning, has like 10 amber, and, you know, you play a couple of Murmuks, maybe you play 3 Murmuks, and all of a sudden they have to pay 9 amber per key, and, you know, they're not getting that back. So that's good, but it's just a good way to stall. And then penalize them once they do have enough. So I like Murmuk, and it doesn't hurt you either. So that's the other good thing. But he's 3 power. He's kind of in the middle. You know, anything above 2 usually can stay around through a lot of stuff because there's a lot of things that do 2 damage. So Murmuk can hopefully survive for a little while as well. I mean, he's an awesome giant crab. If he had nunchucks, it would be perfect. I'm really hoping Untamed gets more crabs in future sets. I'm going to have to campaign for that. Next up at number 6, it's Cooperative Hunting. Cooperative Hunting, great card that has a lot of synergy with a lot of things in Untamed. And yes, you're dealing damage for each friendly creature in play. And it lets you divide it up as much as you want. So what's so great about this, I mean, you know, it's not generating amber, but it's giving you a lot of flexibility when it comes to board control. And it does a lot of damage if you need to do a little bit of everywhere, or if you're, you know, planning some other combos that require you to heal. You know, you can even do some damage to your own creatures if you need to, and you can divide it amongst any way you want. So if you want to just put it all on one creature, even overkill your opponent's creature, you can do that. I just really like this card because, you know, it doesn't have to just be untamed creatures. Also, you can have a lot of creatures out there. Play all your untamed creatures, then play this, you know, clear the board of your opponent's creatures, and it doesn't wipe your own stuff. So this is a little bit of board control that doesn't also hurt you, which is nice because a lot of the board clearing cards wipe both sides, and this is a way for Untamed just to wipe one side. So it's very nice, or potentially wipe one side. Number 5, the Dew Fairy. Very, very common. You've probably seen several of these already. I really like the Dew Fairy because it's not that threatening, right? It comes out and your opponent's like, oh, I don't have to worry too much about that. You know, and they don't really want to go after it because it's elusive. It's harder to attack, and it takes 2 dedicated creatures to attack it, to try to kill it. I mean, yes, some spell effects can do that too, but you know, but then you're just gonna reap with it, and you're already gaining 1 when you reap, and you gain 2, and so, you know, you just keep reaping with Dew Fairies, and you can, you know, it just fits right into what Untamed is doing, outpacing your opponent with Amber. Reaping and gaining 1 is awesome, awesome. Well, I really like the Dew Fairy. Next up, Talika. Again, outpacing your opponent, generating amber. A common theme here. Very, very good. This one is nasty because you're gaining amber when your opponent plays a creature. So one of my favorite first turn plays right here. You can only play 1 card if you're first player. Put this one down. You know, your opponent's like, oh, did you get that great hand that you didn't want to mulligan for? And you had all these creatures you were going to really bring out a huge board presence on first turn. Well, now I'm going to gain 5 amber if you do that, or something like that. So it's nasty, very nasty, and I love it. Number 3, Nocturnal Maneuver, absolutely really cool, board control, and it gives you an amber on top of all of that, which is really a great thing. Now this one is not killing creatures, but exhausting is very similar. It's not quite a stun, but because remember creatures unexhaust or they get readied or untap at the end of their phase. So if I exhaust 3 of your creatures, they're going to be tapped again for your turn, and then they won't untap until the end of your turn. So, and it's up to 3. So if you only have 2, I'm not forced to get one of my own as well. So it's very flexible, and just having them exhausted is great, and it gives you an amber. It's just everything. It's just a really good control card that also generates amber. So naturally, I love it. Number 2, probably the most flexible card in the game, is Mimicry. You play it, it can become anything that your opponent has in their discard pile, or any action card they have in their discard pile. And considering action cards go straight to the discard pile when they're played, it basically can be anything you want. The only challenge, and this was one of those cards that I think may adjust a little bit as the game comes by, is as we're playing the game, if you're running Mimicry, if you have Mimicry in your deck, you kind of don't want to just be like, hey, can I see your discard pile? Oh, let me look through your discard pile again, because you're giving it away that you have Mimicry, right? I mean, there's other cards that mess with discard piles as well, but so like if you're a Mimicry player, you're gonna play it best by remembering what your opponent plays and trying to play it better. So this is a card that really brings a little bit of sleight of hand and some skill and some mental prowess to how to use it best without kind of broadcasting your intentions to your opponent. So when they play that power card and you're just waiting, oh now, and I just love the idea that you can potentially use somebody's deck against them. So I really like that. So yeah, Mimicry, very flexible. It can be just about anything, and I love that flexibility. And for the number 1 pick, it's the Dust Pixie. It may be a little surprised. Maybe you disagree. I could see an argument for Mimicry being number 1 easily because it's a great card, but the Dust Pixie is just too cool. Like chill, laid back, and giving you 2 amber. And one of the reasons that this, that put this on top is also the fact that it's a play ability, and there's so much stuff. Especially within Untamed, that's returning things to their hands. It's very easy to play a Dust Pixie, bounce it back to your hand, play it again, and just get that guaranteed amber. Whereas other cards that can potentially generate more have a little bit more setup. And anytime you're playing a card that requires a lot of setup, you're always running the risk that your opponent's going to be able to just, shatter your plans. Or you're going to play this creature, but I'm going to reap and I'm going to do all this cool stuff, but it may not be around next turn for you to reap. Or you may not be able to call Untamed again for some reason. So, the Dust Pixie's taking all the chance out of it. I'm like, no, I'm just going to have 2 right now. And that may be more than I would have gotten from any other creature had I tried to play them. So, really like the Dust Pixie. Really do. And that's my number 1. That's the top 10 for Untamed. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Did I miss something that you thought should have been on the top 10? Because there were a lot of things that I had to, there were some hard cuts I had to make, but that's the preliminary. This list will probably change as time goes by. We'll probably do maybe more top 10s later this summer once we've had some mini months to really dig in to the game. So I'd love to hear what you guys think. But if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Don't forget to check out Crabbok.com, hop in my Discord, say hi in there. I want to thank you guys and thank my patrons so much for watching, and have a great day.